Yeah, a big sigh of relief as he shook hands there, having recorded that victory 3-2 for Real Madrid over Talavera. So they go through to the next round, fairly unconvincingly though, against Talavera in that Copa del Rey round of 32. They're in the round of 16 now. It's the first time they've won 2 games in a row since October, Real Madrid. Here's our Spanish correspondent Phil Kitromilides. He was commentating on the game and sent this report.
So Real Madrid through to the next round of the Copa del Rey, but only just. They were holding on come the final whistle. They beat Talavera de la Reina 3-2, but this was a game that they had under control. They were 2-0 up at half-time against a team who are second bottom of the third tier of Spanish football, and somehow they let them back into it. But they are through, and the most important thing for Xabi Alonso obviously was the result, because if he had lost tonight, I genuinely think he could have gone, but they won. The performance wasn't amazing though, and a bit like against Alaves at the weekend, where they got the win, but I didn't think the performance was particularly good. They got the win tonight, and they played some decent football at times tonight, but what were the goals that they scored? A penalty, which, okay, you might think it's a penalty, you might not, but it's a penalty, an own goal, and then a goalkeeping howler. So those are the 3 goals they scored against Talavera de la Reina, who themselves put Real Madrid under pressure in the last 10 minutes or so. So listen, it's a win. That's the most important thing for Real Madrid. They're through to the next round of the Copa del Rey. There was no massive upset tonight, but again, the performance wasn't brilliant. Yeah, and there are a few positive things. Obviously, Kylian Mbappe continues to score loads of goals. Dean Howson is back from injury. I really liked Endrick tonight, and not what you usually associate Endrick with, which is bursting energy and shooting and trying to be dangerous. I liked his passing. I thought he played some really clever, intelligent balls tonight, which is a facet of his game I wasn't overly familiar with. I mean, he's probably going out on loan in January, but still, that was positive from Endrick. But overall, again, it was a slightly grey performance from Real Madrid, particularly in the last 10-15 minutes, where they really let control of this game go. But as we said, positive for them. They're through to the next round. Barcelona struggled last night as well. They through to the next round as well. So the big boys march on in the Copa del Rey.
A grey performance from Los Blancos, says Phil there, Jadee. Do you agree with his assessment? This didn't exactly fill the fans with any confidence?
I think the lack of confidence that I would probably take from this is, we're just looking at the stats. This is just, we watched the game, right? But just looking at the stats in terms of it's a screenshot. Wow, 16 shots? You allowed 16 shots on your goal? Regardless of whether or not that doesn't strike domination, that doesn't strike control over a game. That doesn't strike in terms of any conviction in this Real Madrid performance. And the 3-2 sounds like it could have been a bit of a scare. And when you start thinking about the gulf in terms of the gap between the 2 teams, and overall, I think the question marks that are around Xabi Alonso's team right now, his squad selection and overall the Real Madrid 11, is rightfully so, because there's no way that they're supposed to be, especially flirting with any sort of lack of control or problems in these type of fixtures.
Do you think Xabi Alonso was perhaps guilty of overcomplicating this game a little bit? Ultimately, whoever he put out, Real Madrid were certainly the stronger side on paper. I mean, he went for a very, very strong team that he's picked here. He's got Mbappe playing there, Endrick, Arda Güler, Dean Howson was back into the side. So, you know, some of the players that would start in what you describe as a first 11 for him. Did they make their lives too difficult against a team ultimately they should be beating handily?
No, I think they highlighted they're not good enough. I think they highlighted their parade of confidence right now. I think the highlights you saw, and I really do like what Phil said about Endrick. I think Endrick was actually one of the bright sparks today. Mbappe shows the standard that he's shown throughout the whole season in terms of just the consistency and what he's able to produce. But then again, it's the over-reliance on Mbappe, and that creates a bigger question marks. How are we conceding 2 goals in a cup tie like this? I mean, our B team is effectively in the same league as this team, and they're dominating in terms of in the league standings. This is a team that's struggling in parade of confidence, talking about their opposition. And you've come into this, and once again, we're not talking about Real Madrid's control. We're not talking about their dominant position. We're not even talking about the chances they created. We're talking about the goals conceded, and once again, the lack of control they have over this game. It's not good enough in terms of the standard they've set for themselves. Also, the quality that's on the pitch isn't reflected in the performances that's consistently there.
I do agree with you, it wasn't the greatest performance, but a bit like we saw at the weekend, it didn't look like a team that wasn't playing for the manager. I didn't see players here that had thrown in the towel or weren't running. You know, Xabi Alonso, as we can see from these photos there, was dictating from the touchline, and it seemed like the players were playing for him and responding to him. Is that not the issue? Is it just a quality problem of the players that he's putting out?
It's not a quality problem. It's a mechanism problem. And this is sometimes when you need to go into the game within the game, Adam, because their quality is so high that they can look as though that they can just coast in second gear. It's like I can almost tell you, right, you've done this show 1,000 times. You could probably do Scoreline with your eyes closed if you wanted to. There's a difference in terms of the intensity, because if I put you into a different situation, you would come with a different level of intensity, just naturally. Unfortunately, these Real Madrid players aren't showing the intensity that's required, especially when you wear that shirt every single week, the standard that's required. And that's reflected in the style of football that they have, the dominance in which they have these type of games, and more importantly, the results. The results in terms of what they're reflecting. There's no way they're supposed to be conceding 2 goals. I don't care who your opposition is. They're supposed to go into these type of away games, these Copa del Rey awkward fixtures, as you've seen. There's a number of teams that have struggled today. Levante struggled, Villarreal struggled. We've already spoken about those teams, but you're still Real Madrid. Now, on a snapshot, people will be like, oh, they're being dramatic. They're 4 points off Barcelona. They still have a very high chance in terms of qualifying for the Champions League. But you need to understand, in world football, second for Real Madrid is like a midlife crisis. That is mid-table. That's struggling as far as they're concerned, because they see themselves as the gold standard, and they have produced such. And that's why they invest so heavily in the squad. That's why they have world-class players. That's why they've been the standard for the longest while. This is not good enough overall.
It is 2 wins in a row, though. They've got one more game in the league before they've got that little bit of a winter break when the hierarchy might evaluate things. Does this change how the fans feel about Xabi Alonso?
Sevilla is the biggest game in Xabi Alonso's career. He knows it, and the rest of us know it. It's nothing to do with his excellence, and I want to make it very clear. He is a world-class manager. He is an incredible manager. What he's done at Leverkusen cannot be sneezed upon. In terms of the coaching style and what he's able to implement, we can see the vision. But being able to see the vision and execute the vision are 2 different things. And in terms of the squad and the players that he has right now, there's clearly a disconnect in terms of what he's looking to produce, and that Leverkusen team that was vibrant, counter-press, on the front foot, really demonstrated who they were. Clear style of football, to this team that comes out and look lost at moments, lose control for large percentage of the game, and have a quality gap in terms of them to their opposition, but still cannot produce consistently.
Someone who is producing consistently is Kylian Mbappe, game after game after game, answering the questions. Is this the best level, do you think, we've seen in his career so far, what he's producing at the moment?
He's having a game within his own mind, because I think he can see the struggles that his team is going through right now. I think since he's joined Real Madrid, I think he's hit the ground running from day dot, and I think he's been sensational. The output and the production is one thing in terms of looking at the goals, looking at the assists, looking at the goal
involvements. It's crazy at the bottom there. More than
It's
half of their goals are scored by him.
But then that creates a bigger question for me, and I'm talking about the greatness of the team. Is there an over-reliance on his brilliance? Is there an over-reliance for, he's still a human being, so he's going to have off days. He's going to have days where it's not flowing. I know they're few and far between because of his excellence and how hard he's worked on his game and how clinical he's been. He might be having an internal battle to remind the world that he feels like he's the best player in the world. That's Kylian standard. I'm talking about the overall trajectory of the team. We can put him into the upper echelons of Real Madrid history, and rightfully so, because you can see he's there up there with Cristiano Ronaldo in terms of being able to produce on that type of level.
Well, by that, he should break that record, because he's got a little bit of time left. He's only got one more goal to go to equal that record that we saw from Cristiano Ronaldo back in 2013. 59 goals in the calendar year. He also got 58 the year before that in 2012. But you'd think if he continues like he is, he's gonna break that record.
Those records are all great. They're all fantastic. They deserve an applause. But the overall conversation is going to be, at the end of it, is what trophy did you produce? And that's the fundamental. That's what he's going to be judged on. Because you see that guy that's in the graphic with him, he can call himself a 5-time Champions League winner. He can definitively say, I was the best player in the world, even won a Ballon d'Or or 2. So that tells you in terms of the levels of the production. It's all well and good scoring those goals, but what are we doing in terms of our results? And Kylian will know, look, I'm having an internal battle probably with your Harry Kane, Kanes and your Haalands that are keeping me motivated at the top of world football right now. But at the same time, the execution has to reflect in terms of the results for his team. And if they get knocked out of the Champions League and they don't win the La Liga, or they get knocked out of the Copa del Rey, all of those goals mean absolutely nothing. They're just an individual notch that you can tell everybody end of the season. But when you wear Real Madrid, that's not what you're judged on. You're judged on your team success. And those goals need to turn into production, which turn into overall success. And that's not happening right now.